So I want to talk a little bit about wellness today. And when I say wellness, I don't necessarily mean fitness. That's certainly part of it, but that's not wellness. When I talk about wellness, I want to talk about your wholeness, your complete being. What makes you you? What makes you a healthy you? This is particularly true when we're facing challenges in our lives. You know, whether you're having a relationship issue, or whether you're having a problem at work, or maybe it's your finances, or maybe like me, you suffer from anxiety or depression, and how do you address that in a productive, meaningful, and effective way? And so I want to talk to you about that. There's a saying. It goes, "It's hard to see the forest through its own trees." Now, if you think about that saying, it's an accurate saying. It's a good saying. You ever been for a walk through the woods or through into a forest? What you see in front of you are the trees. That's what you focus on. You don't know how large the forest is. It might be a huge forest, and you just might be in a grove of trees, and you don't know that the forest isn't really a forest at all. But when you're there, in the trees, it's hard to see the entire forest because you're focusing on what's right in front of you. When you have an adversity or challenge in your life, that's the same thing. You tend to focus on what's right in front of you. If it's a physical issue, you're focusing on whether maybe it's your weight, or maybe you have a disability, or maybe you have a health issue, and that's what you're focusing on, and that in itself, you're not really seeing the big picture. You're just focusing on that, and that alone is not enough sometimes to overcome that adversity. Now, for instance, for me, as I said, I suffer from chronic anxiety and depression. Now it's not there all the time. It comes in ebbs and flows, and it waves in and out of me. And that's a result of post-traumatic stress from me being in combat for 13 months in a real combat zone, surviving firefights and explosions and attacks, and seeing 16 of my comrades killed in combat. That's what that comes from for me, and it's everlasting, and it had some residual effects on me. And one of the things that it affected was, because I was anxious and depressed, was it affected my health, and I became very sedentary, and was not self-motivated to get out and do things, and I became more comfortable doing nothing than I was actually doing something. And after 11 years of that, I gained an immense amount of weight, and with that came some serious health issues and high blood pressure. I had what's called obstructive sleep apnea, where I couldn't breathe in the middle of the night. I would stop breathing. I had to use a special device to keep my airway open so I wouldn't suffocate during the night. I had hip issues and back issues and shoulder issues, and I had swelling in my extremities. And when that happens, that just means your heart's not working right. And so all these things perpetuated because of my trauma and because of my depression and anxiety. And I had no self-motivation to get out and do things about it. But I knew that. I came from a medical background, so I was a combat medic, and so these things. And so I knew that I had to do something about my weight. So several times, many times, I would go on diets, and I would try to lose weight. And I'd lose 20, 25 pounds, and make some progress. But then I'd fall back into the old routine, and I'd gain 30, 35 pounds back, until finally I was easily 80, 85 pounds overweight, easily almost 300 pounds. And I'm not a tall guy. So I became the ever inflatable man sitting in my living room recliner, watching television and eating, basically to cope with my anxiety. Now, it wasn't that I was dysfunctional. I still worked. I still was productive within my family, but I was just wasting away. And that's not, that as far as health goes, that was my tree in my forest. I was focusing on those things that were right in front of me. But I got to one day, I got to a point where I was sitting in my chair and I was just realizing I had my feet up because my legs were all swollen. And for whatever reason, it struck me that here I am at the time, 53 years old, realizing, that I came to this dark conclusion that, totally in tune with my mortality, and that, wow, 53 years old. I'm 53 years old. I'm going to be lucky at this rate if I live to be 70. That's only 17 years. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she's 24. It seemed like yesterday when I was holding her in my arms. That 24 years it went so quick. I can't even, it just went so fast. That 17, that's all I might have left. I mean, I could die tomorrow. It just struck me. Not that I didn't know that was the case before, but it struck me as so real at that moment. And so I had to take a good hard look at myself. Not look at the trees, but look at my forest. Like, look at myself as a whole. How can I fix myself? It's more than it was more than me being, obese. And it was more than those health issues that came from being obese or whatever. It was more than that. So I really had to take a big, hard look at myself. If I'm going to fix myself, I've got to look at myself as a whole, my entire wellness, my wholeness, and if you will. It's really not about wellness. It's about wholeness. Because wholeness is wellness, is happiness. And that's what I was really striving for, is to find a place. So I took a half a step back. I wanted to see the big 30,000 foot picture of where I am in my life at 53 years old and falling apart and, worried about that I'm not going to be there for my grandchildren. I have 3 grandchildren. I'm not going to be there for my wife. I'm not going to be there for my 5 kids. What am I going to do to fix myself? Because nobody else is going to fix you. You got to fix you. So, I took a hard look at myself, and I had 2 choices: to do the hard thing and take a look at myself and fix myself, or give up. Well, I have a warrior spirit, okay? I'm a warrior. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm not going down without at least a fight. So I took the step back. I've looked at myself. I backed up, took the 30,000 foot look. I noticed that what my forest looked like, it was much more than my health issues. See, there's basically 5 parts in wellness. There's the physical, the relational, the emotional, your financial side, and then your spiritual side. So you look at all those things and what they are to you. Your physical self is your health. Your relational side is, do you have friends? How's your relationship with your spouse? How's your relationship with your kids? Where are you in society? Your emotional side, obviously, where are you in your mind? Where are you, how do you feel about things? How do you feel about yourself? And then your financial side, it's not about being rich or wealthy. It's about being comfortable where you are and being able to provide for you and your spouse and that sort of thing. And then there's the spiritual side. And the spiritual side is, okay, in your heart, where are you? What drives you when the times are down, and what pushes you forward? So it's your beliefs. It's not about your religion. It's about your heart. All right. So I looked at all those things. When I looked at all those things, I realized 4 of those 5 things I was pretty jacked up. Physically, obviously, just went through all that, jacked up. Relationally, it wasn't awful. My wife and I have maintain a really good relationship, but it's more of a roommate relationship. We lost our intimacy at some point because of my depression. Emotionally, messed up. Financially, was really the only one that I was good in. Spiritually, again, I was lost. I'm a Christian man based on Christian faith. I had no church anymore. I had lost my perspective with God. What do? Okay, so I look at those things. You look at those things, you start fixing those things, and things are going to come around. So I started looking at those individually. I started looking at my forest, worked on my spiritual. I went back to church. I found a church I love. Financially, fixed it a little bit, but I was pretty good there. Emotionally, that started getting better because everything else started getting better. Relationship, started working with my wife. Physical, started running, started exercising. Couldn't even do 10 minutes, but now, 7 months later, I'm doing 3 to 4 miles a day. I've lost 70 pounds. And what has happened? It's all come together. Looking at your wholeness makes your wellness happen. Okay? And so here I am, strong, going forward, still dealing with my issues, but I'm dealing with them. I'm not ignoring them. And for that, I'm a better and healthier person. So remember, wholeness is wellness, is happiness. Deal with yourself at the 30,000 foot level and be whole.